A lot of them have definitely been just wrong already, right? Like they expected even back in 2013 to 15, at least some of them, to see blockchains and cryptocurrency fail and go down to zero in price and just not get any more interest completely. And even today, they've already been far more successful than any of them expected. I can see how people in traditional finance, or at least some of them, can be inclined to kind of not see the value of blockchain-based finance immediately. There's a lot of people, even in traditional banks, that see the value that blockchains provide and have been trying to come up with things and work with them.
We're going to talk about Ethereum, but I want to start first with how you got here. You were born in Russia, you emigrated to Canada with your parents when you were just 6 years old, and you started learning about Bitcoin from your father. What is it about Bitcoin that hooked you both?
Bitcoin is really interesting because of how interdisciplinary it is. I was very interested in math and computer programming and cryptography and technology. I was also very interested in economics and kind of politics and philosophy. And Bitcoin just happens to be this interesting fusion of all of these things, right? And at the same time, it's not just a piece of code that's there for fun. It's not even just an app. It's something that's really intended to have a very big and meaningful impact on how the world works. And so I think just having both of those aspects together definitely made Bitcoin very interesting to both me and my dad.
As I understand it, you didn't have enough money to mine, so you wrote about it instead. And in 2013, you wrote the original white paper that became the basis for Ethereum. What was it that sparked that original vision?
So I joined the Bitcoin space in early 2011, and I wrote that Ethereum white paper at the end of 2013. That was the time when things first blew up, and it was clear that this was something that's significant, right? I remember going to the Bitcoin conference in San Jose, which had about 1,000 people in it, and that was when I realized that hey, this isn't just a bunch of weirdos who only exist on the internet. This is real. There's people trying to actually do things. There's people building businesses, a lot of which are actually pretty successful. What started happening then was people started thinking, have Bitcoin, what next, right? So what else can you do with blockchains? What would Bitcoin 2.0 or cryptocurrency 2.0 look like? So Bitcoin is a blockchain that's designed for one application, right? Which is maintaining and letting people use Bitcoin, the currency. Ethereum is a general purpose blockchain. So instead of being a blockchain that's designed for one application, Ethereum is a blockchain that supports a built-in programming language, and whatever blockchain application you want to build, you can just write the logic of that application in the programming language, upload that program to the chain, and this becomes what we call a smart contract. And anyone can then interact with your application, and the blockchain interprets the rules of your application for you. So instead of being something that's designed to do one thing, it's designed to open up space for creativity to basically let people do whatever thing that they want to do on top of it. There are multiple projects already trying to do that, and lots of them are based on Ethereum, so yes.
So then, is Ethereum a threat to established, centralized companies and social networks like Facebook, like Twitter, like Google?
I think it can be a threat, but it can also be an opportunity. I think even Jack Dorsey himself, right, he has this project called Blue Sky, which is trying to figure out how Twitter can kind of incorporate decentralized elements. And I think a lot of these projects want to actually do this, right, because I think a lot of them are realizing that being a kind of centralized focus of power and having control and of so much of everyone's data and all of these things, it's not just an asset, it can also be a liability as well.
Why did you want Ethereum to be a nonprofit, and how did you come to that decision?
It was just very importance to me that like this is a technology, that decentralized infrastructure that's meant to be not controlled and not owned by anyone, and it's a platform that's for the world, and so for that platform to be connected to a company that had a very small number of shareholders, I think is something that could really centralize the ecosystem, and so something that I thought would be very unhealthy and wanted to really avoid. This is the scalability problem. Everyone's been talking about the scalability problem for at least 5 years now, and basically it's like a simple supply and demand problem, right? Like if the number of people who want to send transactions goes up, but the amount of space for transactions on chain doesn't go up, then all of these people who want to send transactions are bidding against each other, and only the ones that are willing to pay a really high amount can actually get in. The only way to solve this is to just improve the technology to increase the number of transactions that the system can process. It's why we've been doing just all kinds of incremental improvements to the blockchain clients and the protocol and the code over the last 5 years. Ethereum scalability has increased by about a factor of 5 since the project started. And then there are some problems that are not like just scaling problems per se, but they're still technology problems, right? Like there are problems that have to do with the fact that like this entire ecosystem has blown up and gotten big fairly quickly. There's a lot of aspects of it where people are still trying to understand like what is the correct way and what is the safest way to do these things. Right? Like for example, the state of just security auditing for blockchain protocols. Like it has gotten much better since the DAO hack back in 2016. Right, but at the same time, challenges continue to exist, and that's normal in any space when you have I guess usage growing faster, and then the technology catches up.
Can you contrast proof of stake with proof of work? Why do you think that's so much better?
The reason why blockchains need to have proof of something, right, is because like these are decentralized systems. So for example, in proof of work, like the system actually measures how much computing power is being put into each block. And so in order for an attacker to take over the network, they actually have to have more computing power than the rest of the network combined, right? Like, so you can't just spin up a billion virtual machines on one computer, but the problem is that it requires a huge number of computers to be constantly running 24/7. So it works, but it's very expensive. Proof of stake, it works differently, right? So proof of stake works by instead using coins as the economic resource. So if you have coins inside of the system, then you just sign messages with those coins. And for an attacker to take over, they have to basically have like more coins than the rest of the network put together. So it does the same thing, but it avoids the need to have these computers running 24/7, and that's where the efficiency comes from.